Wazoo sprints through the tall grass, fleeing his home in total despair after being betrayed by the girl he loved. Suddenly, he finds himself being hunted by an unlikely pair, a cat and a muscular fish. He dodges as they start throwing rocks, wondering how on earth a cat and a fish even teamed up to jump him. The monsters corner him with hungry looks, so he tries to bluff and tell them he'd taste absolutely terrible. They aren't interested in his excuses and let out a roar, leaving Wazoo thinking about playing dead as a last resort. He spots a bridge leading toward the base of a massive mountain and makes a run for it. He charges across the wooden planks, but the weird duo isn't about to let their prey escape that easily. The monsters tear into the bridge's supports, and Wazoo can only watch in shock as the whole thing collapses under him. He hits the bottom of the canyon, certain that his life is about to end right here. Just as the monsters prepare to finish him off, a massive shadow falls over the area, freezing them in their tracks. Ragnar, a colossal black dragon, towers over the scene alongside a mysterious skeletal figure. The dragon looks down at Wazoo, calling him a pathetic human who isn't even worth a snack. Ragnar lets out a massive yawn, telling him they have no interest in an ant like him before moving on. They depart, leaving Wazoo stunned that he actually survived a face-to-face encounter with a legendary dragon. He tries to head back, but the monsters from before are still lurking, so he ducks into a nearby cave to hide. Starving and desperate, he uses his guild card to slice open a strange fruit he found while watching some ants. He remembers joining the guild just to stay near his childhood friend Arya, only for her to end up with a hero instead. Thinking about her still makes his chest hurt, but he's stuck in this dangerous forest with no easy way out. He stares up at the S-tier mountain, where the weather is a constant nightmare of storms, fog, and heat. Hiding away in his cave, he feels like he's just waiting to die, too terrified to even step outside. 3 days pass without a real meal, and his survival instincts finally force him to start scavenging for anything edible. He's lost a massive amount of weight and can't stop dreaming of the hot meals he used to eat back home. Driven by hunger, he resorts to eating leftovers from other predators, forcing down stuff that tastes like literal garbage. He accidentally eats a poisonous plant that paralyzes his body, and as he lies there, a strange glowing light appears. The light hovers right over him, and Wazoo assumes he's seeing a ghost as he prepares for the end. He closes his eyes and drifts off, thinking the whole encounter was just a hallucination brought on by the poison. In his sleep, he relives the promise he made to marry Arya, a dream that was shattered when she was taken by another man. Wazoo wakes up with a renewed will to live and finds that, somehow, he's able to move his body again. His physical condition starts to improve, even though his daily routine involves eating things that make him want to vomit. Curious about his progress, he pulls out his guild card and uses a drop of blood to check his stats. The card shows his status, but the numbers look weirdly weak, even for a lowly rank F adventurer like him. He flips the card over and discovers a unique skill called Goddess's Sympathy listed on the back. The skill details explain that the goddess has been watching over him, granting him protection and a taste for bad food. Wazoo realizes that the glowing ball from before was likely the goddess herself, helping him survive. Suddenly, the text on the card changes, responding directly to his thoughts and encouraging him to keep fighting. Despite his terrible stats, he finds a bit of hope in these strange new abilities and decides to make the most of them. He leans into his training, eating poisonous mushrooms and pushing his body to the limit to build up resistance. About 6 months pass by, and all that survival training finally starts to pay off as he grows significantly stronger. He gains a new unique skill called Glutton, and the messages from the goddess on his card keep cheering him on. Finally feeling ready to hunt, he sets a trap and waits patiently for a monster to wander into his range. His first prey finally shows up, but it's just a jiggly, translucent slime wobbling toward him. He was really looking forward to some real meat, but he sighs and accepts that slime jelly will have to be his dinner tonight. Wazoo notices even the bamboo sticks and rock lizards are melting under the slime's acid. He remembers how adventurers usually keep their distance to avoid getting burned. He He thinks slimes are dangerous because of that acid, but then he realizes he's just standing right in the middle of it without a scratch. He picks up a small rock and decides to toss it at a slime just to see what happens. The rock completely obliterates the slime in one hit. Wazoo is stunned by his own strength and ends up spending way too much time cleaning up the mess. He takes the time to document every type of monster he's encountered in the forest on a cave wall. Now that he's finished, he's ready to move on. Having circled the entire forest, he realizes the only place left to explore is the mountain looming in the distance. While taking a break to eat, he wonders what his sister Kagani would say if she saw him looking this tattered and dirty. He spends the rest of the day making new clothes and shoes from monster materials, preparing to head for the mountain first thing tomorrow morning. It's been a year and a half since he fled from town. He decides it's time for another status check on his guild card. His stats have become absolutely insane. His HP can endure anything, and his strength is supposedly enough to smash a star. Even the goddess is unsettled by how strong he's become. Wazoo heads up the mountain, determined to test his true limits. The local monsters are so weak compared to him that they don't even count as a challenge anymore. He reaches a high ridge with a beautiful view and senses something massive heading straight for him. A colossal black dragon, Ragnar, swoops down from the sky, crushing several monsters under its weight as it lands. Wazoo is terrified but can't help but be fascinated. A real dragon, legendary and powerful, is standing right in front of him. Ragnar is surprised to see a mere human in such a high, dangerous place and asks how he even got there. Suddenly, a demon tries to take advantage of the distraction and attacks, but Ragnar swats it away like a fly. Annoyed that a human is invading his backyard, Ragnar tells Wazoo to get lost and go play somewhere else. Wazoo doesn't flinch. He explains that he's just traveling around, looking for anyone stronger than himself. Ragnar is amused by the human's audacity and offers to be his opponent, promising to hold back enough not to kill him. Wazoo accepts the challenge, though he has a sinking feeling he might immediately regret it. Ragnar moves into a combat stance, his sheer presence shaking the mountain to its core. Meanwhile, back in the Iskoa kingdom, Wazoo's sister Kagani is still searching for him in the capital's center market. She tells a local merchant that she hasn't found any clues yet, but she knows her brother is useless without her. Kagani spills her drink and yells in protest when someone suggests that Wazoo might have already found a beautiful girlfriend somewhere. A peddler notices her distress and offers to help, mentioning that he travels to many different towns. Back on the mountain, Wazoo catches Ragnar's massive claw strike with his bare hands. The dragon is genuinely impressed that a human could stop his strike. Realizing he needs to get serious, Ragnar unleashes a massive blast of fire breath directly at Wazoo. The flames die down, leaving Wazoo standing there completely naked. He's unhurt, but his hard-made clothes have been burned to ashes. Ragnar is shocked that a human could survive his fire breath unscathed. Wazoo is just annoyed that 3 months of work on his clothes vanished in a second. Wazoo tells Ragnar to take a look around as he prepares to strike back. He launches a punch that connects squarely with Ragnar's jaw, sending shockwaves through the air. Ragnar is sent flying back, crashing into the landscape with a deafening roar. Wazoo wonders if he might have overdone it just a little. Wazoo sits naked, waiting for morning to arrive. Ragnar eventually wakes up, amazed that a human could best him in a one-on-one fight. Ragnar lets out a hearty laugh, realizing he was beaten just for a set of new clothes. He invites Wazoo to his castle to get properly dressed. Wazoo introduces himself as a genuine human, and Ragnar formally introduces himself as the Dragon King. Wazoo enjoys the incredible view from Ragnar's back as they fly toward the castle. They arrive at a magnificent fortress that's far bigger and more impressive than any royal castle Wazoo has ever seen. Ragnar tells Wazoo to wait while he fetches some clothes, as his pride won't allow a naked man to wander through his castle. While waiting, Wazoo picks up a small, winged creature that's been watching him. It's Mir, and she seems quite curious about him. Mir squeaks and snuggles into him. but Wazu's attention is pulled away by the sound of footsteps approaching. Mir perches on Wazu's head as three residents of the castle, Rudo, Zeal, and Neil, arrive to investigate the intruder. Rudo, a high elf, launches a sudden attack, but Wazu blocks her strike effortlessly. The residents are stunned that a naked human can withstand a high elf's blow. Rudo, Zeal, and Neil launch a coordinated attack on Wazu, but he effortlessly blocks and dodges every strike without a scratch, even while completely naked. Wazu asks if they're done yet, looking bored. The residents are stunned that he's unscathed. Rudo prepares real magic, while Zeal and Neil charge up their own lethal abilities, determined to take him down. Wazu grins and invites them all to give him everything they've got. A nearby status window shows his humanity is at 88%, hinting at the cost of his godlike power. The battle is cut short as Ragnar's massive foot slams into the ground between them. The castle residents immediately freeze in terror. Ragnar orders Wazu to get dressed and tells everyone to sit down and explain what's going on. A majestic white dragon, Meryl, introduces herself as Ragnar's wife and the mother of little Mir. She notes how incredibly rare it is for their daughter to bond with a stranger so quickly. Wazu is shocked to learn Mir's true heritage. Ragnar is suspicious of his intentions, but Meryl silences him, choosing to trust Wazu simply because Mir has chosen to trust him. Ragnar relents, formally entrusting Mir to Wazu's care if that's what she wants. Wazu smiles warmly, feeling a deep, sudden protective instinct for the small dragon. Wazu spends a few peaceful hours playing with Mir in the castle grounds. Rudo watches from a balcony, still finding it hard to believe this human is as strong as he seems. Neil and Zeal observe Wazu as well. Neil notes that he seems like a genuinely nice person, which Zeal finds oddly irritating even as he admits it's true. After spending several quiet days at the castle, Wazu accepts Meryl's request to take Mir out to see the world beyond the mountain. He realizes this entire visit might have been a test of his character. The morning of their departure arrives. Ragnar tells Wazu to be careful, but jokingly threatens his life if anything happens to his daughter. Wazu is just happy to be moving again. Ruto and Zeal give him some final, stern advice to be bold and earnest. Wazu waves a final goodbye as he and Mir begin their trek down the mountainside. Wazu reflects on his path, figuring he's back near the area where he was wandering before. He suddenly hears rustling in the nearby brush. A cat beastman and a giant fish monster lunge out to ambush them. Wazu effortlessly knocks them both unconscious with a single, uninterested punch as Mir cheers him on. Unsure of which way to go, Wazu decides to seek some divine guidance and asks Mir to help him pray for a direction. He tosses a stick into the air and it points directly east. Taking it as a sign from the goddess, he and Mir head in that direction, though Wazu is wary of the fortune anxiety the stick reportedly brings. After some time walking, Wazu notices he's not alone on the road. He's surprised and a bit excited to see another human figure up ahead after so long. He meets a friendly peddler named Shiro, who is relieved Wazu isn't a bandit. Wazu is just happy for some human conversation, even if he doesn't have any money for Shiro's wares. Shiro is remarkably friendly, calling them friends almost immediately. After a pleasant chat, Shiro suggests they share a meal if their paths cross again before heading off. The peaceful mood is shattered as an arrow whistles past Wazu's ear. He catches the next one in midair, his expression turning cold as he looks for the attackers. Wazu is absolutely livid that someone dared to shoot at him and Mir. His aura explodes outward as he screams a threat at the hidden archers. He finds a group of bandits holding a young elf girl hostage. Her family is pleading for her life, but the scarred bandit leader only mocks them, tightening his grip on the girl. The bandits continue to taunt the elves, who are frozen in fear, knowing any move they make could mean the girl's death. Wazu steps out from the shadows, looking thoroughly annoyed. He asks the bandits if they were the ones shooting arrows, as the confused elves wonder who this human stranger is. When a bandit tries to attack him, Wazu catches the blade with his fingers. He tells the elves he hopes he's not too late to help as he prepares to end the standoff. Wazoo releases a sudden burst of power that sends the bandits flying like ragdolls. He apologizes to the stunned elf for the mess as the bandits are neutralized. With the bandits unconscious, Wazoo stands calmly in the clearing. The elves can't believe how easily this stranger handled a situation that had them completely paralyzed. The bandits scream in terror as Wazoo looms over them. He tells the elves to take the girl to safety while he makes sure these guys won't be bothering anyone else. A beautiful high elf named Salona suddenly appears, using her magic to hold back the last of the bandits. Wazoo is taken aback by her sudden arrival and her impressive power. Salona stands majestically, her silver hair catching the light as her magic swirls around her. Wazoo is mesmerized, thinking she looks absolutely incredible. With everyone safe, the young elf girl, Sheena, thanks her human Oni-chan with a hug. Salona and the others join in, expressing their deep gratitude for Wazoo's help. After some introductions, Salona invites Wazoo back to their village. Wazoo is impressed by their treetop homes, but a bit nervous when they start jumping between the high branches. Wazoo is warmly welcomed at the village and spends the night at Sheena's house. The family treats him like an honored guest, and he enjoys a rare moment of peace and companionship. Over dinner, the elves ask Wazoo about his journey and his incredible strength. They're amused by his simple explanations, but acknowledge that his movements were faster than they could follow. That night, as Wazoo looks out at the mountains, little Sheena boldly declares her intent to become his bride one day, causing a lot of laughter among the adults. The next morning, Wazoo finds a quiet stream to wash up. He reflects on how much his life has changed in just a few days, having made more friends than he has in years. While soaking in the water, Wazoo thinks back to Salona's cool magic. Feeling refreshed, he decides it's time to get out and head back to the village. He's suddenly frozen in shock as he sees Salona bathing in the same stream, just a few feet away. She's just as stunned to see him, and the silence is deafening. Panicking, Salona unleashes a powerful blast of wind magic at Wazoo, screaming for him to go away. Wazoo can only think about how badly he's messed up this time. Salona quickly grabs her things and flees, her face a bright shade of red. She's mortified, but she also can't get the image of Wazoo out of her head. Back at the village, Wazoo bows low in a sincere apology to Salona. The other elves can't help but chuckle at the awkward situation. Salona, still blushing furiously, tells Wazoo she's not mad and even apologizes for her magical outburst. She begs him to just forget what happened, and Wazoo is more than happy to comply. Salona is still blushing furiously, playfully threatening to report Wazoo's incident at the stream to the village chief. Wazoo is in a full panic, desperately pleading with her to just forget everything she saw. Salona breaks into a smile, revealing it was only a joke. She reassures Wazoo that the village chief is already deeply grateful to him for saving the children. She warmly invites him to stay in the village as long as he likes, while little Mir enjoys some attention from another elf. A few days later, Wazoo is out hunting with the elven warriors. When a pair of massive, horned mountain goats charge toward them, the warrior Luluna prepares her bow, but Wazoo steps forward, telling her he'll handle this. As the powerful beasts leap through the air, Luluna calls out to Wazoo in concern. Wazoo remains perfectly calm, a confident smile on his face as he prepares to intercept the charge. Wazoo catches the massive goats with his bare hands, carefully controlling his godlike strength to avoid a needlessly messy kill. Luluna is left in absolute awe, praising him for his incredible performance. The group returns to the village with a successful haul. The elves are increasingly impressed by Wazoo, calling him a true guardian of the village. Wazoo is just happy to be useful, while Luluna thinks about how even the formidable Salona would be impressed by his work today. The hunters discuss Salona, the head of the village guardians, and her history of protecting their home. Wazoo listens with interest, while little Mir rests on his head. The peaceful atmosphere is shattered when a wounded and panicked elf named Gazuna arrives. He gasps out a warning about a giant scorpion that has appeared on their hunting grounds, and says that Salona has stayed behind alone to face it so the others could escape. Wazu's expression immediately turns serious at the mention of Salona being in danger. While some of the elves are hesitant, Wazu doesn't waste a second, demanding to know where the monster is and racing off toward the large tree. Near the massive ancient tree, Salona is locked in a desperate struggle with the black-armored giant scorpion. Despite being covered in arrows, the monster is unfazed, and Salona is struggling to protect a wounded comrade behind her. Salona is determined to stop the beast before it can reach the village, but her magic is barely scratching its thick carapace. She urges the injured elf to flee while she tries to hold the line. The scorpion's heavy tail strikes, and Salona is forced back. Just as the monster prepares a final, lethal blow, Wazu bursts into the clearing, his voice full of concern as he calls her name. Before Wazu can reach her, one of the scorpion's massive pincers slams into Salona, sending her flying. Wazu watches in horror as she coughs up blood, and his fear quickly transforms into a cold, terrifying rage. With a roar of pure fury, Wazu lunges at the giant scorpion. He delivers a punch of such incredible power that it shatters the monster's armored shell and sends a massive shockwave rippling through the forest. Wazu moves with blinding speed to catch the falling Salona before she can hit the ground. He holds her gently, his face full of worry, as Mir hovers nearby. Salona weakly opens her eyes to find Wazu holding her. The other elven warriors arrive on the scene, frozen in shock at the sight of the giant scorpion defeated by a single, incredible blow. Wazu tells Salona she's too injured to walk and insists on carrying her back to the village. Salona is flustered and embarrassed, protesting that she's covered in dirt and sweat, but Wazu simply tells her he doesn't care. As they prepare to leave, a low, menacing rumble fills the air. To everyone's horror, the giant scorpion begins to stir, its multiple eyes glowing with a hateful red light. Despite her injuries, Salona tries to prepare for another fight, telling the other warriors to aim for its eyes while she tries to save Wazu. She screams at the monster to let him go. To their absolute astonishment, Wazu is already standing calmly atop the scorpion's head. He looks down at the beast with a bored, slightly annoyed expression, remarking on how surprising it is that it's still moving. To their absolute astonishment, Wazu is already standing calmly atop the scorpion's head. He looks down at the beast with a bored, slightly annoyed expression, remarking on how surprising it is that it's still moving. Wazu places a single finger on the monster's head, concentrating a massive amount of energy into a single point. He tells the beast he'll finish it for good this time, and the forest is suddenly filled with a blinding light. With the monster truly defeated, the group finally returns to the elven village. They are greeted with cheers and tears of joy from the villagers, who are relieved to see them all safe. Wazu looks around at the smiling faces, finally feeling like he's found a place where he truly belongs. Wazu and Salona head back to the village after the hunt. Wazu's got that creepy hooded guy on his mind, the one he spotted lurking in the shadows earlier. Salona is still patched up from the scorpion fight, so the young man offers to walk her the rest of the way. He's genuinely worried about her, and she seems to appreciate the gesture. Being alone with her brings back that awkward memory from the hot springs. He starts panicking internally, wondering if she's secretly grossed out by him. They take a breather by the river under the moonlight. The elf girl thanks him again for saving her life earlier that day. Wazu's too humble for his own good, apologizing for not being fast enough to stop her from getting hurt. She just smiles and tells him how kind he is. Salona admits she always thought she was the strongest in the village, but seeing him fight changed everything. The protagonist is completely blindsided by the sudden compliment. She seems relieved to find someone even stronger than herself. She looks at him with a soft expression that's got him even more flustered. Wazu's face is beet red as he tries to process what's happening. Meanwhile, his companion is secretly hoping he might actually stick around for a while. Deep in the woods, Gazuna stares at the scorpion's remains with pure disgust. He's not happy about some random human ruining his plans. The hooded elf pulls out a couple of dark orbs, his face twisting into a nasty grin. He's done watching from the sidelines and decides it's time to take control. Gazuna stands before a pack of monsters, declaring that the time for his move has finally come. This guy is clearly bad news. Wazoo takes a moment to reflect on how far he's come. From a desperate runaway to a guy who's befriended dragons and is protecting an elven village. A week passes by in peace until a village girl comes running to his room. Things have taken a turn for the worse at the village square. Everyone's gathered to watch a duel for the title of head guardian. Salona stands across from a very smug-looking Gazuna. Wazoo rushes over to see what the commotion is about. The villagers explain that the silver-haired elf challenged Salona to a fight for her position. The stakes are high. The winner takes the lead, and the loser gets kicked out of the village for good. Gazuna's been jealous of her strength for a long time. An elder elf casts a massive magic barrier around the two fighters. He gives the signal, and the duel officially begins. The challenger goes on the offensive immediately, but the guardian isn't backing down. She blocks his strikes and looks for an opening. The crowd is clearly on Salona's side, cheering her on as she holds her own against her opponent's desperate attacks. Gazuna starts losing it, blaming her for everyone looking down on him. He's got this unhinged look in his eyes that screams trouble. He pulls out a dark relic called the Gospel of Darkness, vowing to show every elf who rejected him the true meaning of vengeance. Suddenly, a dark energy surges through the ground. Outside the barrier, the spectators feel a massive vibration as monsters start surrounding the area. The elder is horrified as a horde of creatures approaches the village. Gazuna just laughs, reveling in the chaos he's caused. Vicious beasts come charging out of the forest, and the villagers are left defenseless while the guardians are busy inside the barrier. The villain screams for the monsters to rampage as much as they want. Salona can only watch in horror as her people are put in danger. While the village is under attack, Wazoo stands calmly outside the barrier. He looks around, assessing the situation while everyone else is in a panic. Gazuna gives his opponent a twisted choice. Either kill him to drop the barrier, or stay inside while her village gets wiped out. Out of nowhere, Wazoo is just standing there inside the barrier, waving a casual greeting. The elf girl is completely floored. Nobody's supposed to be able to get in. The antagonist is losing his mind, trying to figure out how a human bypassed his magic. Wazoo doesn't even bother looking at him. He tells her to focus on the duel while he deals with the monsters outside. He's already taken care of the ones nearby, judging by the bodies in the background. Gazuna pulls out a mysterious red sphere, his expression turning even more sinister. He declares that this village will become her grave. He consumes the orb and transforms into a massive, hideous monster. Salona can barely believe the monstrosity standing before her. The beast lunges at her, sending her flying with a single blow. Wazoo watches closely, his face finally turning serious. He can't just stand by anymore. The young man steps in and stops the monster's next attack with ease, telling Gazuna that his interference ends here. The creature screams at him to get lost, but he isn't budging. He's furious that this guy actually tried to kill her. Wazoo winds up a massive punch and lets it fly, screaming out his feelings at the top of his lungs. Because I like Salona saying, the monster is absolutely vaporized by the force of the blow. As the dust settles, the protagonist realizes exactly what he just shouted in front of everyone. Salona is blushing furiously. She tells him she's happy about his feelings, but she can't leave the village because it's her duty to protect it. She looks heartbroken having to turn him down, but she's firm on her decision. He puts on a brave face and says he's going to keep traveling. Wazoo runs out of the village with Mir, trying to hold back the tears as he heads toward his next destination. It's a pretty rough way to end a confession. Sometime later, he wakes up in a new town called Linnock. A cheerful girl named Lula is there to make sure he doesn't sleep the whole morning away. Lula is all hyped up about the wandering hero staying at her inn. The young man is just focused on heading to the Adventurers Guild to get his life back on track. Wazoo is getting ready to head out, but it turns out someone's already here to pick him up. A woman named Emma from the guild introduces herself, and she's a real head-turner. Emma is incredibly pushy, insisting that he needs to change his clothes for the meeting with the guildmaster. She even offers to help him undress, which sends him into an absolute panic. He ends up sprinting out of the room to escape her help. Being around a beautiful woman like that first thing in the morning is way too much for a guy who's never had a girlfriend. They finally arrive at the Linux City Adventurers Guild. It's a massive, impressive-looking building that towers over the surrounding streets. The place is packed with all sorts of adventurers, including some demi-humans he's never seen before. Emma tells him to follow her up to the third floor, teasingly warning him not to stare at her hips while they climb. They enter the top office, where a massive, imposing figure is standing by the window. The man introduces himself as the Guild Master of Linux. The master turns around, revealing a bald, scarred, and very muscular face. This is Reagan, and he looks like the kind of guy you definitely don't want to mess with. Wazoo is frozen with fear until Reagan mentions his wife and daughter. He realizes this terrifying man is actually the husband and father of the sweet family he's been staying with. He can't help but shout his shock out loud, wondering how such a beautiful family could belong to this bald old goat. Reagan isn't thrilled with the tone, but he lets it slide. Reagan gets down to business, explaining that he wants Wazoo to take on a quest that other adventurers are too scared to touch. He's curious about how an F-rank kid like him survived so much. The mission is to investigate a dragon sighting on a nearby hill. A merchant spotted a massive silhouette 2 weeks ago, and Reagan wants someone to check it out. Wazoo is ecstatic when he hears the reward is 30 gold coins. He's so confident that he claims he'll just punch the dragon away if it causes any trouble. He heads out of the office, making sure to remind Reagan that he's not balding, just shaved. Reagan is left wondering if the kid is actually as strong as his daughter claims. Downstairs, Mir is busy being the guild's new mascot. Reagan's wife, Kayla, shows up with some sandwiches and water for Wazoo's journey, which he gratefully accepts. On his way through the city, he spots a girl being cornered by some shady-looking guys. He quickly jumps in and pulls her away before things get ugly. They duck into a quiet alleyway to hide. The thugs are left wandering the streets, frustrated that their target seemingly vanished into thin air. Once the coast is clear, he introduces himself as a friendly neighborhood adventurer. The girl is clearly relieved and thinks he has a lovely name. She pulls back her hood, revealing her name is Tada. Wazoo is once again amazed by just how many beautiful women live in this city. Tada is surprised that he's heading out on a dragon quest all by himself. He reassures her that he'll definitely be back soon and tells her not to worry. He notices a sad look in her eyes and can't help but try to cheer her up. He promises to return to the city as soon as the job is done. Tada watches him walk away, thinking what a strange but kind person he is. She gives him a small wave as he disappears into the crowd. He runs into the guard who checked him at the gate earlier. The man is shocked that he's going dragon hunting alone and with such light gear, but he wishes him luck anyway. He and Mir make it to the nearby hill. Wazoo checks the map Reagan gave him, figuring the dragon should be somewhere near the big lake. Mir shows off her storage magic by pulling out the sandwiches Kayla packed. Having a walking pantry is definitely going to make these long trips much easier. They take a moment to admire the sunset from the top of the hill. It's an incredible view that makes him appreciate how far he's traveled. As night falls, he reflects on how wide the world is. He wonders if he'll ever find a true friend who will stick by him forever. They finally reach a large cave. Wazoo calls out for the dragon, but the place seems deserted. He starts thinking maybe the sighting was just a mistake. Suddenly, a massive dragon appears behind them, and she's clearly not in a good mood. Wazoo realizes with a shock that it's Mel, Mir's mom. Mel is absolutely furious about something. Wazoo tries to get her to calm down, but she's way past that. Mir is just happy to see her mom again. Mel screams that she's left her husband for good and returned to her birthplace. Wazoo has stumbled right into the middle of a dragon family feud. Once she finally calms down, she explains the situation. Wazoo realizes the dangerous dragon everyone was scared of is actually just a very upset wife. Apparently, the Black Dragon King cheated on her with a red dragon. Wazoo can't believe Ragnar would be that reckless. Mel doesn't have a lot of evidence, so Wazoo offers to go get Ragnar so they can talk things through. He even offers to be a witness to make sure things go smoothly. She agrees to the meeting. Wazoo leaves Mir with her mom and sprints off toward the mountain castle to find the cheating husband. He reaches the dragon castle in record time. He finds Ragnar moping around, looking like he's in a state of total despair. Ragnar is surprised to see him. Wazoo immediately demands to know why he cheated on Mel, causing his whole family to fall apart. Ragnar swears he didn't do anything wrong. He explains that a dragon named Karel was aggressively hitting on him, and he didn't know how to turn her down. Wazoo isn't having it. He lectures the Dragon King on how stupid he was being and tells him it's no wonder Mel is so angry. Ragnar is terrified that Mel won't forgive him. Wazoo tells him that a sincere, wholehearted apology is the only way to fix things. They decide to head back to the cave together. Wazoo is exhausted from spending the entire day as a dragon relationship counselor. The next morning, Wazoo comes up with a faster way to travel. He hoists the massive Black Dragon King over his head like he's made of cardboard. He winds up and literally tosses the dragon across the landscape toward the lake. It's certainly quicker than flying, even if the passenger is terrified. Wazoo is back at the cave, and he hasn't come alone. He's brought Ragnar along to finally face Mel and settle their domestic dispute once and for all. Wait, there's another dragon here? It turns out Mel's mother is also present, making this a very awkward family reunion. Ragnar is desperate to explain that everything was just a huge misunderstanding. Mel's mother, whose name is Megal, is the former Dragon Queen. She's incredibly powerful and has no patience for Ragnar's excuses, forcing the Dragon King to kneel before her in shame. Wazoo finds himself caught in the middle of the argument. He realizes he's accidentally stepped on a conversational landmine by bringing the cheating husband back to his furious mother-in-law. Fed up with the constant bickering, Wazoo shouts at them to just be honest and make up already. He's tired of playing mediator for a couple of ancient, stubborn dragons. Wazoo tries to give Ragnar some relationship advice, suggesting he take Mel to a nice restaurant. He quickly realizes that finding a high-class restaurant for giant dragons in a human town is going to be impossible. Ragnar takes the advice to heart and promises to cut off all contact with the other female dragon. He's determined to prove his loyalty to Mel and his mother-in-law. As a peace offering, Ragnar decides to take Mel and Megal to the human town of Linux. He wants them to enjoy some delicious food and beautiful scenery as a way to mend their broken bond. Wazoo is confused. How are three massive dragons supposed to just walk into a human city? Megal finds it hilarious that he doesn't know their biggest secret yet. It turns out high-level dragons can use their mana to take on human forms. Wazoo watches in awe as a blinding light begins to transform the three giant beasts. The transformation is complete, and the results are stunning. Ragnar, Mel, and Megal now look like a group of noble, incredibly attractive humans. Wazoo can barely believe his eyes. Megal is ready to head to Linux, leaving Wazoo completely flustered by how hot the dragon family has become. He's a bit disappointed that Mir hasn't learned the trick yet. Elsewhere, the elf Salona is still searching for Wazoo. It's been 10 days since he left the village, and she's starting to get really worried about where he might be. She's followed his trail to a trade harbor, wondering if he's already hopped on a ship to another continent. The thought of never seeing him again makes her heart ache. Salona starts imagining a future where she and Wazoo are always together, but then she panics. What if he's already found other comrades and started his own harem? The idea sends her into a spiral of despair. She feels guilty for rejecting him in the past and wonders if she even has the right to stand by his side now. Her gloomy thoughts are interrupted by the arrival of a cheerful young girl. The girl is Lula, and she's currently running an errand for her father. She notices Salona looking down and offers her some freshly baked bread from a famous local bakery. Salona is struck by the girl's pure and uncorrupted eyes. She introduces herself and mentions she's thinking about visiting Linux, which happens to be where Lula is from. Lula is excited to meet an elf and invites Salona to stay at her family's inn. Salona explains that she's currently searching for a certain man, though she's a bit vague about the details. When Salona describes the man as aloof but cheerful, kind, and strong, Lula immediately gets a blush on her face. She has a feeling they might be looking for the same person. As soon as Lula mentions a young man with a small dragon on his head, Salona knows for sure it's Wazoo. She's shocked to learn that he's actually staying at Lula's inn and working for her father. Salona can't believe her luck. She's walked all the way from the elven village just to return Wazoo's guild card. But Lula is more interested in whether she loves him or not. Lula teases Salona, saying she's an open book when it comes to her feelings. Salona gets incredibly flustered, insisting that her heart isn't ready to join any kind of harem yet. Lula mentions that Wazoo is currently out on a job her dad gave him, but Salona is welcome to wait at the inn. Salona is nervous, wondering if Wazoo will even accept her when he returns. The two girls start making their way back toward Linux. Salona is daydreaming about going on adventures with just the two of them, her heart racing at the mere thought of it. Suddenly, Lula spots Wazoo in the distance. Salona freezes up, her heart pounding against her ribs as she sees the man she's been searching for. Wazoo is surrounded by three very attractive people. Salona is immediately hit with a wave of jealousy, wondering who these new friends of his are. She watches them from afar, feeling a bit dejected. She knows Wazoo is a kind and reliable person, so it's only natural that he'd make new friends, but it still stings to see him with others. When Lula tells her to go say hi, Salona panics and runs away. She tells Lula to just deliver the guild card for her, saying she has other things to do. All of a sudden, Lula is left completely confused by the elf's sudden departure. Meanwhile, Salona is hiding behind a tree, cursing herself for being so cowardly when she'd been looking forward to this meeting for so long. She wishes she could just apologize and ask to join his group, but the words just won't come. She feels like a jerk for the way she acted toward him in the past. Watching Wazoo smile from a distance makes her feel both lonely and frustrated. She's stuck in a whirlwind of emotions, not knowing how to bridge the gap between them. She clutches her chest, feeling a sharp pain that she can't quite explain. It's a feeling of deep regret and longing that she's never experienced before. She finally realizes the truth. She's already fallen head over heels for Wazoo. The realization is bittersweet, given how much distance there's between them now. Back at the guild, Reagan is having a hard time believing that the three beautiful people in front of him are actually the dragon family. Wazoo is trying his best to explain the situation without sounding crazy. To prove it, Ragnar briefly transforms his head back into a dragon's. The sight is so terrifying that Reagan immediately falls backward, begging them to change back to their human forms. With the proof provided, Wazoo is eager to collect his reward and head out for a nice dinner. He asks Reagan if he knows any good restaurants around the city that can accommodate their special guests. Lula arrives at the guild just in time to hand Wazoo his guild card. She mentions she met an elf named Salona, which immediately catches Wazoo's attention. He wonders if she's really here in the city. The next day, Wazoo takes Mel and Megal on a tour of Linux. The dragon ladies are fascinated by the human town, finding all sorts of interesting things they've never seen before. They stop by a shooting range, and Megal decided to give it a try. She's surprisingly good at it, hitting every target with ease and earning some impressed looks from the locals. Mel, on the other hand, isn't having much luck and ends up with a consolation prize. Wazoo and Lula continue their tour, noticing how bustling the entertainment district is. Lula points out a grand-looking building, which the dragon ladies find very impressive. Lula and the other maid are too embarrassed to tell them that it's actually the town's most prestigious brothel. Wazoo is treating his new dragon friends to a feast, but the amount they're eating is astronomical. Reagan warns him that even though they look human now, Their stomachs are still very much dragon-sized. Wazoo is annoyed that Ragnar is already relying on him so much. Reagan changes the subject, telling Wazoo to come by the guild tomorrow to officially re-register and get his business in order. Walking back alone that night, Wazoo can't help but think about Salona. He's startled when the goddess's voice suddenly teases him for being so focused on one girl that he's forgetting about his divine patron. Wazoo tries to ignore the voice while grabbing a quick bite. He clarifies that he hasn't made new comrades for a party, just guides for the dragons. He gets a sudden chill, sensing that there might be some shady characters in this town. Back at the restaurant, Ragnar, Mel, and Megal are absolutely devouring the food. Wazoo is sweating bullets, terrified of what the final bill for this small feast is going to look like. The atmosphere softens as Mel decides to forgive Ragnar. The Dragon King's attempt to make amends with luxury food worked perfectly, and the couple reconciles with a very public and embarrassing hug. The next day at the guild, Wazoo is horrified to find his reward is nearly gone. Reagan reveals that the cost for the dragon family's feast and lodging were deducted directly from his payout, leaving him almost broke. There's a silver lining, though. The guild receptionist informs Wazoo that his rank has jumped straight from F to C. Since he can negotiate with dragons, they've decided to skip the usual tests and promote him immediately. Returning to the inn, Wazoo is teased by Lula. She's heard from Reagan that he's being taken to a nice place tonight, and she jokingly calls him a playboy for going out on the town. Wazoo is fuming because Reagan is charging him for the dragon's stay at the very inn where he's working as a bodyguard. Meanwhile, Ragnar and his family are relaxing in total luxury, completely oblivious to his financial stress. Wazoo prepares to head out with Reagan, leaving Mir in the dragon's care. Megal notes how everything in the human world seems to revolve around money, while Ragnar continues to act like a perfect, doting husband to avoid further trouble. Reagan has hired a fancy carriage to take them to the entertainment district. Wazoo is confused until Reagan mentions introducing him to a girl or two to spend the night with, making him realize exactly what kind of place they're visiting. They arrive at the town's most prestigious brothel. Wazoo is panicking, but Reagan insists they're just there to see an old friend who owns the place. He ruthlessly teases Wazoo for still being a cherry boy at 17. Inside, they are greeted by a stylish man named Garrett. Reagan introduces Wazoo as a promising young adventurer, while Wazoo tries his best to disappear into the floor out of sheer embarrassment. Garrett has already heard the rumors about the boy who can stand equal to the Dragon King. Wazoo feels completely out of place in the opulent setting, his eyes darting around nervously. Garrett invites Wazoo to pick any girl he likes for the night. A group of beautiful women immediately surround him, and Wazoo is so overwhelmed he feels like his brain is going to short-circuit. Suddenly, a stunning woman with long black hair steps forward, asking to accompany the wonderful gentleman. Wazoo recognizes her immediately. It's Tada, the girl he saved from the slave traders. Tada is beaming, clearly happy that Wazoo remembers her. Garrett is surprised, noting that Tada rarely shows interest in customers, but she insists that Wazoo is a special case since he saved her life. Tada leads Wazoo away, suggesting they become more than just acquaintances. To cope with the extreme awkwardness, Wazoo grabs Reagan's strong liquor and starts drinking it like it's water. The potent alcohol hits Wazoo like a freight train. He lets out a satisfied pwah before his eyes roll back and he face plants onto the floor, completely unconscious. When Wazoo finally wakes up, he feels something incredibly soft under his head. He realizes he's lying in Tada's lap, and the close proximity to her chest makes him let out a panicked "WHA?" Tada gives him a gentle, knowing smile. She explains that he fainted after overdoing it with the liquor, and Reagan entrusted her to take care of him in her private room. As Wazoo tries to process the situation, Tada starts to prepare herself for the night. The sound of rustling fabric fills the room as she begins to undress, much to Wazoo's growing alarm. Tada leans in close, her expression suggestive as she tells him he can do anything he wishes with her. Wazoo is in a total state of shock, his heart racing as he realizes he is absolutely not ready for this level of intimacy. Wazoo is totally flustered when Tada suggests they sleep together so she can get to know him better. He's thinking things are moving way too fast here. He grabs her hands and tells her she needs to value her body more instead of just offering it up like that. Tada is surprised, but she can't help but giggle at his reaction. Tada laughs and calls him strange but kind. She admits she feels a bit guilty now for trying to trick someone as honest as him. She explains that she saw him handle those 3 adventurers earlier and has been asking Reagan to introduce them ever since. She was hoping he might lend her some of that strength. Wazoo doesn't hesitate. He asks who he needs to beat up for her. He tells her not to worry about money and says he just can't walk away from someone with an expression as lonely as hers. Tada pouts and asks if she really looks that lonely. She admits it feels like he can see right through her, then asks for a promise that she can tell him the rest of her story later. Tada explains that she's working at the inn to pay off a massive debt her father owes. The guys chasing her earlier were debt collectors, and her parents are back home doing everything they can to raise the money too. Wazoo immediately offers to go talk to the creditor so she can just go home, but Tada panics. She tells him he can't pick a fight with this person, no matter how strong he is, or he won't be able to stay in the city. Tada says she's determined to pay off the debt and win back her freedom with her own hands. But since she's scared they won't let her go that easily, she asks Wazoo to protect her until then. Wazoo smiles and promises to support her determination with everything he's got. He tells her not to hold back and that he'll come flying to save her the moment she's in real danger. Tada thanks him with a blush. Wazoo gets flustered and mentions he became an adventurer to build a harem. Instead of being weirded out, she thinks the idea is actually kind of lovely. She jokingly asks if she could be the first member of his harem. Wazoo is totally caught off guard and tells her not to joke like that, as they realize they still have a lot of time left in the night. Wazoo asks Tada to show him around the city since he's still new to Linux. She happily agrees to show him some good restaurants and scenic spots the next day. The night passes, and Tada wakes up in bed the next morning, realizing she actually fell asleep. She looks over and sees Wazoo fast asleep on the floor. She's stunned that he really didn't try anything while she was out cold. She watches him sleep and can't help but blush at the thought. She remembers him telling her to value herself more and realizes this is the first time she's met someone like him. Wazoo starts to stir as she hides her face. Wazoo wakes up with a big stretch, thinking he had an amazing sleep. He notices Tada's business card on the table, but she's already headed out for the day. He leaves the inn feeling good, but his peace is interrupted by someone shouting at him. It's a cat girl named Ninya, and she is definitely not happy to see him. Ninya tells him never to come back, calling him a plain-faced nobody who just got lucky for one night. Wazoo tries to explain, but she just calls him cheeky and refuses to listen. She practically kicks him out of the area. Even though the owner said Wazoo was strong, Ninya doesn't trust him yet and feels she's the only one who can truly protect Tada. Wazoo finds Mir and tries to cheer the little dragon up since she's been sulking about him staying out. He offers to buy her something delicious as an apology. Tada shows up in a new dress and greets them both. Wazoo is surprised to see her so soon, and she introduces Ninya as her official bodyguard. Wazoo tries to be friendly, but Ninya just slaps his hand away. She then grabs Mir to play with her, telling Wazoo to just shut up and carry the shopping bags. Ninya runs off with the little dragon. Wazoo is confused by her attitude, but Tada giggles, thinking Ninya might just be trying to give the two of them some alone time. They browse a jewelry store, and Wazoo says he wants to buy something to thank everyone for being so kind to him. Tada points out that smaller shops like this often have one-of-a-kind items. Suddenly, Wazoo's expression changes. He senses something outside and tells Tada to stay in the shop and not go out for any reason. Wazoo walks out and confronts a group of men. They're the debt collectors from before, and they mock him for being alone now that the beast folk girl isn't around to protect him. Wazoo doesn't waste any time. He moves like a blur, kicking one guy into the air and slamming another against the wall before they even know what's happening. He finishes off the whole group in seconds and sighs about what a pain the whole thing was. The thugs are left scattered and unconscious on the ground. Ninya walks up with Mir, admitting that Wazoo is even stronger than she expected. She reveals she was using the thugs to test him and see if he was actually worthy of being around Tada. Ninya admits she was ready to step in if needed, but Wazoo handled it so fast it wasn't necessary. He asks if she trusts him now, and she has to admit he's way out of her league. Ninya reveals a dark secret. Tada's debt is actually a total lie concocted by the city's lord, Gazuna. He's the worst kind of person and only created the debt to force Tada to belong to him. Tada comes out of the shop and starts scolding Wazoo for disappearing. She jokingly pulls on his cheeks, acting like she's his boss while Ninya watches from the side. Wazoo suddenly gets serious and shouts that she doesn't have to worry about anything anymore. He vows to stay by her side so she can finally feel safe. Tada is touched by his passion. Meanwhile, a narrating voice, a goddess, explains that Ninya told Wazoo the whole truth about the fake debt and the Lord's influence over the city. The goddess continues, describing how Tada's parents and friends like Reagan are all working hard to find proof that the debt is fake so they can finally protect her. Lord Gazuna is already sending mercenaries because he knows the truth is about to come out. The goddess cheers Wazoo on, telling him to go beat up that scumbag lord. Back at the shop, Tada spots some matching goods for couples. She blushes and asks Wazoo if she would look like a normal girl if she walked around holding his hand. Wazoo just laughs and tells her she's far more beautiful than any normal girl. Tada is completely stunned and embarrassed by how blunt he is with his compliments. She starts to tear up, overwhelmed by her emotions and her past. She looks at Wazoo with a deep, silent gaze that says more than words ever could. They find a pair of rings with ancient letters. Wazoo reads the engravings. The men's ring says, "I hold you dear," and the women's ring says, "I look only at you." Tada stares at the ring with the message, "I look only at you." She wonders if someone like her is even allowed to have a wish like that. Tada's heart is racing as she holds out a ring to Wazoo. She nervously asks him if he'll put on for her. Leaning into his side, she realizes this isn't just about gratitude anymore. For the first time, she truly feels like a normal girl in love. Wazoo is hesitant because he fights with his bare hands and might break a ring, but Tada insists. She tells him she just wants him to wear it whenever they're together. They part ways for the night with a promise to meet again. Tada watches him go with a soft smile while Ninya, her catgirl bodyguard, keeps a close watch. Wazoo waves goodbye, feeling pretty good about how things are going. Tada just stands there blushing as Ninya gives him one last skeptical look. Back at the inn, Wazoo gets a warm welcome, which mostly involves Mir biting his arm in a jealous rage. Reagan and his family can only watch the chaos. Wazoo tries to explain that the ring was just a present, but the dragon family isn't buying it. Ragnar is especially intense about Wazoo keeping his focus. To make it up to Mir, Wazoo presents her with a beautiful hair ornament he bought as a souvenir. The little dragon's mood shifts instantly. Mir is so touched by the gift that she starts bawling. Wazoo gives her a big hug, glad to finally be back in her good graces. Wazoo ends up sleeping on the floor and wakes up feeling like he was hit by a truck. A guild staff member named Emma bursts in to wake him up. She catches him in a pretty embarrassing pose on the floor and gets totally flustered. Wazoo, meanwhile, just wants to know what the emergency is. Emma explains that a deadly poison swamp has suddenly appeared south of the city. Wazoo just laughs it off, showing her his status screen. Poison doesn't stand a chance against him. He accepts the scouting mission but tells Mir and the others to stay behind for their own safety. Ragnar looks at the quest paper, clearly worried. Ragnar tells Wazoo he has a bad feeling about this and offers to come along. He wants Wazoo to know it's okay to depend on others once in a while. Ragnar shifts into his massive black dragon form for the trip. He jokes that Wazoo looks like a totally useless dad compared to a dragon king, but he's happy to be the ride. They take off from the city walls, heading straight for the forest. Down below, the city folks watch their legendary departure. Back at the inn, Megal and Mel sense a dark presence approaching the city. They know something truly evil is on its way. In a dark alley, a hooded figure approaches a group of thugs. He's talking about a red orb that can grant incredible power, even if it costs them their sanity. The mysterious man offers them a discount on the orb, claiming it's strong enough to take down a Dragon King. The thugs look ready to make a deal. While the city's underbelly plots, Tada sits alone by her window. She's looking at the ring she received, clearly worried about the shadows closing in. Wazoo and Ragnar reach the forest and are hit by a wall of thick purple miasma. The smell is so foul it nearly knocks Wazoo over. Ragnar suggests just blasting the whole forest with fire to clear it out, but Wazoo stops him. He doesn't want to destroy the ecosystem just to fix one swamp. Ragnar turns back into his human form to keep a closer eye on Wazoo. He's amazed to see Wazoo walking through the thick poison like it's a field of flowers. Wazoo admits he doesn't really understand his own power either. He just remembers being desperate and refusing to die as a pathetic man. He mentions he used to eat whatever he could find, bones, weird mushrooms, you name it. Ragnar realizes Wazoo's strength might come from some very strange places. Ragnar notes that Wazoo has a natural talent for drawing people to him. Wazoo is modest, joking that he still doesn't even have any actual friends. They finally find the source of the miasma. A massive, bubbling pool of pitch-black sludge sits in the middle of the clearing. A monster made of pure, poison miasma screeches as it lunges at them. Ragnar tells Wazoo to back off, since one touch could be fatal. Wazoo decides he wants to test something out. Ragnar freaks out, thinking the kid is about to commit suicide by poison beast. Wazoo throws a punch and completely vaporizes the monster. He's relieved he can actually hit it, while Ragnar is left screaming in shock. Wazoo stands over the smoking remains, totally casual. Ragnar can't believe he just treated a high-level threat like a common pest. He spots a red marble in the sludge. As soon as Wazoo picks up the marble, it crumbles to dust. It confirms his suspicions about the connections to the city lord's earlier scheme. Now, for the cleanup. Wazoo's brilliant plan is to just drink the entire swamp. He takes a sip and is surprised to find it tastes like citrus. He goes full vacuum mode, chugging the poisonous water until his stomach swells up like a giant balloon. Ragnar is watching in pure horror. Wazoo finishes the last drop and lets out a massive sigh of relief. He's full, the forest is safe, and Ragnar is officially traumatized. Suddenly, a brilliant light fills the area. Wazoo hears the voice of the Mother Earth goddess, thanking him for saving her forest. Wazoo collapses as the light fades. His stomach is back to normal, but he's completely drained. Ragnar rushes to his side. Looking at the sleeping Wazoo, Ragnar realizes this man truly is a kind soul. He decides to officially acknowledge him as his daughter's choice. Ragnar declares they are best buds forever, while Wazoo just lets out a miserable groan. It seems the after effects are starting to kick in. Back in the city, Reagan is checking on a very pale Wazoo. Wazoo admits he has a bit of a stomachache, and Reagan just laughs, thinking he's joking about the swamp. Reagan delivers some good news. They finally gathered enough evidence to take down Lord Gazuna. Tada is almost free from her debt. Wazoo is busy losing his lunch in a bucket. He wonders why his immunity is failing him now. Suddenly, the goddess of Mother Earth appears in his mind. Wazoo is staring at his status card in utter disbelief as a new voice echoes in his mind. The goddess of Mother Earth. She's so moved by his actions to save the forest that she grants him her divine protection too, despite his desperate pleas for her to stop. It's too late. The card glows as his stats skyrocket into the realm of the impossible, with strength enough to destroy a planet and speed faster than light. However, his human purity drops to 78%, and he can only cry out in despair at the unwanted power. Wazoo limps through the city, his entire body racked with pain for what the goddess calls growing pains. He wonders if this agonizing level up is really worth the trade-off as his body struggles to contain the new power. A mysterious hooded man with a dark smile bumps into him in the street. Wazoo is so pale he looks like a ghost, and though the stranger offers an antidote or a trade, Wazoo just wants to get to the mansion and rest. The man introduces himself as Shiro and tells Wazoo to try buying something from him if they ever meet again. Wazoo is left confused by the encounter, but quickly shifts his focus back to his primary goal, protecting Tada. Wazoo finally reaches the mansion where Ninya is waiting, her arms crossed in frustration over his long absence. As she begins to emphasize the gravity of their situation, Wazoo suddenly collapses face first onto the floor. Ninya panics, shaking him desperately and screaming for him to wake up. Meanwhile, a sweeping view of the capital shows a deceptive calm before the coming storm. The scene shifts to a darker setting where monsters are roaring in the shadows. A powerful figure stands over the city, laughing as he prepares to unleash chaos upon the unsuspecting citizens. Lord Gazuna, hidden under his hood, looks down at a collection of red orbs. He's disappointed that none of them evolved into the specific form he hoped for, but he decides they'll be enough to spice things up for the night. At the Adventurers Guild, Orlando slams a report onto Reagan's desk with a look of pure panic. He delivers the dire news. A horde of at least 1,000 goblins is marching toward the city's southern borders. Wazoo finally wakes up to find his head resting on Tada's lap. She looks down at him with immense relief, explaining that he collapsed from exhaustion, while Wazoo is instantly flustered and apologetic for being a burden. Panicked by the changes on his status card, Wazoo suddenly grabs Tada and begs her to tell him if he still seems human. Tada blushes as he asks her to touch him and make sure nothing is weird, her heart pounding at the sudden closeness. Tada gently strokes his face and whispers that he's actually quite cute. The moment is interrupted when Ninya bursts in with water, her tail wagging furiously despite her annoyed expression at seeing the two of them so intimate. The girls thank Wazoo for saving the capital, but they're both curious about how a normal human could possibly drink a whole swamp. Wazoo tries to play it off, but Tada's playful gaze tells him she knows he's hiding an incredible secret. Tada leans in close, her eyes filled with deep, unwavering sincerity as she tells him that she truly believes he is a human at heart, no matter where his strength comes from. She promises to believe in him always. Wazoo is touched by her words, but their peaceful moment is cut short by a sudden, violent noise coming from outside the mansion. A messenger runs in, shouting that a massive horde of goblins is about to raid the capital. Every available adventurer, including the guild master and the knight leader Garrett, has already mobilized to the gates. Wazoo's expression hardens with determination. It's time to move. Tada doesn't ask him to save the city. She just tearfully begs him to stay safe and come back to her. Tada's eyes well up with tears as she holds on to him, terrified of what's coming. Wazoo gives her a reassuring smile, promising that no matter what, he won't die, while Ninya promises to stay by Tada's side. Wazoo runs out, shouting that he'll be right back. Tada watches him from the balcony, her hands clasped in prayer as the city gates below are swamped with chaos and fear. The city gates are under immense pressure. Guards are shouting to keep the gates shut while adventurers inside are clamoring to let them out to fight, fearing the capital will be overrun. Wazoo pushes through the crowd and finds Orlando. He casually asks where the goblins are, while Orlando and the other adventurers are panicking about being trapped while their leaders fight alone outside. Orlando is in despair, cursing his own weakness as he watches civilians cowering in fear. Wazoo puts a calming hand on his shoulder and tells him to leave the situation to him. Wazoo tells Orlando to open the gates when he gives the signal. Before anyone can process what's happening, Wazoo takes off running and jumps straight over the massive city wall. Orlando's jaw drops as he sees Wazoo plummeting toward the ground. He can't believe the dragon tamer just committed what looks like a suicidal leap into the fray. In midair, Wazoo looks down at the sea of green monsters below. He's impressed by their numbers, but he's already preparing his landing, shouting, "Here we go." Wazoo hits the ground like a meteor, creating a massive shockwave that vaporizes hundreds of goblins in an instant. He casually notes that he probably took out enough of them to make the rest manageable for the others. The adventurers at the gate watch in stunned silence as the dust clears. Wazoo waves back, telling Orlando to open the gates and let the others handle the remaining goblins while he goes to find the guildmaster. Wazoo dashes off into the forest, leaving a crying and grateful Orlando behind. The young adventurer can barely manage a thank you as Wazoo disappears from sight. Deep in the thick of the battle, Reagan and Garrett are fighting for their lives. They're outnumbered and exhausted, realizing that if they don't find the Goblin King soon, the city is doomed. Wazoo suddenly appears behind them with a cheerful greeting. Reagan is so shocked he nearly misses a swing, yelling at Wazoo for showing up in such a dangerous place so casually. As they discuss a plan to draw out the leader, a massive explosion rocks the ground. A terrifying report comes in. A demon has appeared at the northern gate and is tearing through the defenses. Reagan explains that demons are humans corrupted by excessive magical power, turning into mindless engines of destruction. Wazoo remembers the sinister presence of Lord Gazuna and realizes the connection. Wazoo tells them he'll handle the north gate and runs off again. Meanwhile, back at the mansion, Tada and Ninya are shaken by the explosion, unaware that a terrifying presence has appeared right behind them. A clawed hand snatches Tada away as Ninya is paralyzed by the sudden lack of presence from the attacker. A distorted, monstrous voice whispers, "Tada, you're mine." Lord Gazuna reveals himself in a hideous, demonic form. He laughs maniacally, holding a terrified Tada as he declares that everyone will despair before the combined power of his demons and goblins. The chaos in the city intensifies as goblins break through. People are running for their lives, but those who saw Wazoo's power are holding onto a glimmer of hope. Wazoo is racing through the streets, Mir flying right alongside him. He spots a group of enemies ahead and focuses his gaze. "I see them." He confronts a group of minor demons who are attacking civilians. Wazoo pauses for a second, realizing their faces look familiar. They were the thugs from the city's slums. Determined to end their suffering, Wazoo lands a devastating punch on one of the transformed men. He knows there's no way to turn them back, so he chooses to give them a swift end. Wazoo tears through the group of demons with ease, his strikes sending shockwaves that clear the streets. With a final farewell, he puts the last of the corrupted souls to rest. The surviving adventurers are in awe, calling him the legendary Dragon Tamer. Wazoo barely stops to check on them before rushing back to Reagan, who is flabbergasted that Wazoo finished the job so quickly. Reagan tells Wazoo that the situation is dire. Even with reinforcements, they can't stop the Goblin Army. Wazoo is beaming with joy because being needed by others feels incredible to him. Ninya suddenly appears, battered and crying. She delivers the horrifying news that Lord Gazuna has transformed into a monster and kidnapped Tada. Wazoo's happy expression vanishes, replaced by cold fury. Reagan and another adventurer discuss the grim reality of Tada's situation. They fear Gazuna will force her to marry him, or worse, keep her as a prisoner in his mansion to do with as he pleases. In a painful reflection, Tada's past struggle is shown, working to pay off her parents' debt while fearing she would never find true love. She cries, realizing that being forced into a marriage with Gazuna would mean a life of eternal misery. Ninya is inconsolable, sobbing that she only wanted to make her Wani-sama happy. Wazoo listens with a grim face, the weight of the city's fate and Tada's life resting on his shoulders. Wazoo is torn between helping the army and saving Tada. Reagan and the others shout at him to leave the battlefield to them, urging him to go where he's truly needed. Wazoo is paralyzed by the impossible choice. Suddenly, the ground shakes as the massive black dragon Ragnar descends from the sky. He looks down at Wazoo with a knowing smirk, asking if his buddy is in a bit of tight spot. Ragnar tells Wazoo to go save Tada and leave the goblin army to him. Wazoo's face lights up with gratitude as he realizes his friend has arrived to turn the tide of the war. With a shout of, "I'm counting on you, best bud," Wazoo takes off running at full speed toward the city. Ragnar watches him go with a huff of amusement, ready to unleash his power. Ragnar asks Reagan about the enemy's strength. Learning there are about 800 goblins and several kings, the dragon decides they'll look better roasted and tells the adventurers to move out of his line of fire. The adventurers cheer for the Dragon King, As Ragnar mentions, he's fighting for the people trembling in fear, including Reagan's daughter Lula and his own daughter Mir. Reagan is stunned that the dragon knows his child's name. Ragnar lets out a world-shaking roar and charges into the goblin ranks, incinerating everything in his path. Meanwhile, at the mansion, a terrified Tada is held captive by the villainous lord. Gazuna, now a demonic monster, gloats over Tada and tells her she is destined to be his. Tada defiantly spits back that she will never belong to him, asserting that her heart remains pure despite his cruelty. Enraged, Gazuna insults her and mocks her feelings. Tada remains steadfast, her eyes filling with tears as she declares that her heart is reserved for someone she truly loves from the bottom of her soul, and it's definitely not him. Tada screams her love for Wazoo, vowing that she will never be Gazuna's. The monster's face twists into a hideous grin as he prepares to break her spirit once and for all. Gazuna threatens Tada with unspeakable acts, determined to make her submit. She screams for help just as a massive explosion rocks the room. Wazoo bursts through the wall with a powerful strike, instantly knocking Gazuna back. Tada cries out his name in a mixture of shock and overwhelming relief as her savior finally arrives. Wazoo apologizes for his lateness and gently covers the half-exposed Tada with his own shirt. He reassures her that the battle outside is almost won and that he's here to protect her as her personal bodyguard. Now shirtless, Wazoo stares down Gazuna. The monster is baffled, demanding to know how a mere human jumped over the mansion's fortified walls like it was nothing. Gazuna scoffs, claiming Wazoo couldn't have bypassed the 30 B-rank adventurers guarding the place. Wazoo simply points to a literal mountain of unconscious guards he took out with a few special knuckle sandwiches. Driven to madness, Gazuna unleashes his ultimate demonic power, summoning flames and serpents of water. He laughs hysterically, believing his newly acquired strength is far beyond anything a human can handle. Undeterred by the massive display of magic, Wazoo stands his ground with a look of absolute resolve. He tells Gazuna to rot in hell as the final clash between human and demon begins. A mysterious figure watches from a distance, noting how Wazoo's strength has completely defied his expectations. The Count is ready to end it, channeling all his newfound magical power into a massive elemental blast. Tada screams for Wazoo to run. Wazoo isn't alone, though. A couple of goddesses pop up to offer their protection, telling him to give it his best shot. The explosion is massive, tearing through the area. Tada covers her eyes, while Wazoo stands his ground in the middle of the chaos. She begs him to just abandon her and save himself, but Wazoo gives her a confident wink. He's totally fine. Tada can't wrap her head around why he'd go this far for someone like her. Meanwhile, the Count is losing his mind because his ultimate attack didn't leave a scratch. Then, right in the middle of the life-or-death struggle, Wazoo just blurts it out. He tells her he likes her. Instant regret. Wazoo realizes that maybe a demonic battle wasn't the best time for a confession. Tada is just as stunned, insisting she isn't worthy of someone like him. She brings up her past, saying her body is stained because of where she worked. Wazoo isn't hearing it. He shouts that he doesn't care about any of that, repeating that he likes her just the way she is. Tada is moved to tears by his sincerity. Behind them, the Count is absolutely livid that his property is being sweet-talked. Wazoo isn't in the mood for talk anymore. He lands a crushing blow, furious that the guy even thought he could claim Tada as his woman. The Count gets sent flying, coughing up a mysterious red orb. Wazoo picks it up, realizing this is the same kind of weird power source Gazuna used. With the threat gone, Wazoo carries Tada out of the wreckage. Reagan and the others show up, letting him know the goblin mess outside is all cleared up. Ninya rushes over, relieved that her sister is safe. Wazoo even gets a reluctant thank you for the cat girl for his help. Peace finally returns to Linux. The city is safe, and the people can go back to their normal lives thanks to Wazoo's intervention. The next morning, Wazoo is feeling refreshed. He's got big plans to invite Tada to travel with him today. He heads out with a grin, wondering if she'll actually say yes to his invitation. Over at the guild, Orlando and Reagan are going over the details of the red orbs. These things are basically instant monster transformation pills. They suspect a shady guy in a hood is behind the distribution. Orlando is assigned to track him down before more people get turned. Wazoo finds Reagan, who drops the bombshell. Tada already left the city with her family. He panics and runs to find her, only to bump into Ninya. She confirms the news. Tada didn't even leave a destination. Ninya explains that Tada did it for his sake. She didn't want her reputation to hold back a hero like him. Wazoo is left standing there, completely crushed. He understands her choice, but it doesn't make the parting any easier. Somewhere else, Salona is having a similar existential crisis. She missed her chance to join Wazoo's harem, and now she's just moping about it. Tada is also regretting the quick getaway. She wonders if she basically just goes to the guy who saved her. She can't hold it back anymore and screams out her love for Wazoo, much to the confusion of her family. Salona hears the shout from nearby and recognizes the name immediately. The elf approaches Tada, curious about her connection to Wazoo. They quickly realize they're both in the same boat. Salona is thrilled to find another potential harem member. Salona gets a bit bashful, admitting that Wazoo's simple charm is hard to resist. They bond over their shared feelings. Even though they're far away, both of their hearts belong to the same ordinary-looking hero. They start geeking out over him, agreeing that his mix of insane strength and innocent personality is a lethal combo. The two of them decide to swap stories about their time with him, officially forming the Wazoo fan club. Back in the city, things aren't quite as cheerful. Wazoo has been face down in his pillow for 5 days straight. Reagan and the guild staff are genuinely worried. The guy hasn't eaten a thing since Tada left. Orlando isn't the type for soft talks. He kicks the door open and tells Wazoo to wake up. Since Wazoo won't move, Orlando challenges him to a duel. He figures some physical exertion is the only way to snap him out of it. It's not much of a fight. Orlando gets tossed around like a rag doll, but Wazoo is still just too depressed to care. They take a break and sit on the grass. Orlando admits he can't even touch him, even when Wazoo is this miserable. Orlando points out how uncool he's being. Hiding in bed because of a girl isn't a good look for a guy this strong. He tells Wazoo he respected him from the bottom of his heart, and it's a shame to see him like this. Orlando keeps going, admitting that his real dream was to be someone like Wazoo, a man who actually stands up to protect those around him. He tells Wazoo he admired him way too much to just stand by and watch him waste away in his room over a girl. He genuinely considers him a friend. Orlando admits he's never had much confidence in himself, which is why he goes around trying to make friends to fill that empty spot in his heart. He confesses how much he envies people who have companions on their journey. For him, the loneliness just gets more miserable as the days pass. Orlando suddenly grabs Wazoo, shouting that he doesn't care if no one wants to follow him. He tells Wazoo to stop acting like his incredible strength is a curse. He reminds Wazoo that he saved an entire city and the woman he loved. Even if she's gone for now, he made her smile, and that should be plenty. Orlando paints a picture of a legendary traveler known across the world as a hero, someone who goes around solving problems and bringing back people's smiles. "Be that man," he yells. Wazoo is clearly touched, his face flushing as he realizes how much Orlando looks up to him. Wazoo takes a moment, a determined smile finally returning to his face as he thinks about the people he's saved and those he's met. He stands up with a new fire in his eyes, agreeing that Orlando's idea sounds like a great way to live. The little goddesses and his dragon pal are thrilled to see him back on his feet. They head back to the guild and drop the news on Reagan. Orlando is going to aim for knighthood, and Reagan is surprisingly supportive given his recent training with Wazoo. The guild staff is heartbroken to see their valuable asset leaving. Lula and Kayla tearfully beg Wazoo to come back and visit Linux again sometime. Reagan hands over his old adventurer's badge as a parting gift, mentioning it might help Wazoo out in the royal capital. He also warns him about his horrible elder sister who lives there. Wazoo, Orlando, and Mir finally set off. Ragnar and his family fly overhead in a grand send-off as the duo begins their long trek to the royal capital. Meanwhile, a carriage is barreling through the rain. Inside, Tada and Salona are hoping they can catch up to Wazoo before he gets too far. Salona thinks the whole situation is pretty amusing. Wazoo has managed to get himself two beautiful women chasing after him already. Ninya bluntly asks if the two of them are officially applying for Wazoo's harem. Tada gets incredibly flustered, while Salona just takes it in stride. Back on the road, Wazoo and Orlando's journey is already getting interesting. They find themselves face to face with a massive, snarling bear-like beast. Orlando is completely wiped out after taking down 30 monsters, but Wazoo is barely even breathing hard. He teases the knight for having such low stamina. Wazoo thinks about how Mir has been helping him stay strong by feeding him various things she finds. He carelessly bites into a mushroom, only for Mir to panic because it's poisonous. Orlando admits he used to be jealous of Wazoo's natural strength, but after traveling together, he sees it's not as effortless as it looks. Wazoo talks about his own goal, being the kind of person people can always rely on when they're in trouble. He tells Orlando he'll definitely make it as a knight, especially with Wazoo's Sparta training. As they settle in for the night, Mir uses her convenient space-time magic to handle all their gear. Orlando is still blown away by how handy she is. Orlando mentions that even if Mir can't turn human yet, she's already sticking by Wazoo's side like a devoted wife. He laughs, while Wazoo just looks a bit tired. The next morning starts with a jolt. Wazoo wakes Orlando up, sensing something wrong in the distance. Wazoo hears the sounds of struggle and shouts. He tells Orlando to move it. There are people in serious danger nearby. They stumble upon a group of bandits who have captured several women. The thugs are being incredibly gross, threatening the terrified captives. Among the prisoners is a female knight named Cassie. She's tied to a tree and fighting back with words, which only makes the bandit leader more aggressive. Wazoo and Orlando take cover in the brush to assess the situation. Wazoo confirms that there are several women being held at knife point. They don't waste any more time. Wazoo and Orlando burst out of the woods, completely catching the bandit crew off guard. Wazoo quickly delegates, telling Orlando to focus on the armored guys while he takes care of the rest of the mob. Orlando is nervous but knows he can't back down. The bandit leaders, the Dagondo brothers, are outraged that some random kids are ignoring their reputation. Wazoo just shouts back that he's never heard of them. Wazoo becomes a whirlwind, tearing through the bandits with ease. Orlando charges ahead, desperate to get the women out of harm's way. The fight is over before it even really starts. Wazoo's speed is on a completely different level, leaving a trail of unconscious thugs behind him. With a final, massive strike, Wazoo sends the last of the bandits flying. They're left in a groaning heap on the ground. Wazoo checks on the women, asking Mir for a water bottle to give them. He tries to untie Cassie, but her bulky armor makes it a bit of a struggle. Cassie introduces herself as the captain of a squad serving Princess Naminisha Manbond. She and her subordinates are deeply grateful for the rescue. Suddenly, a ring on Cassie's finger begins to glow. It's an emergency communication, and she hears that her allies are currently under heavy attack. Wazoo is a bit distracted by the name Cassie being cute, but the situation is serious. It turns out the princess herself is in danger nearby. The scene shifts to Mima Village, where Princess Naminisha is hunkered down. She's relieved to hear Cassie is okay, but they're pinned down by a large enemy force. Naminisha looks on in horror as a smoke screen fills the area. They're outnumbered and have no way to stand against so many enemies. She explains that they're trapped in a house on the outskirts, just waiting for the barrier to fail. Suddenly, the sounds of a violent intrusion echo through the building. Wazoo is in the middle of a frantic rescue, taking down the red-armored knights with a single, powerful blow. Princess Naminisha watches from the shadows of the house, her heart skipping a beat as she wonders who this mysterious savior could possibly be. As she stares at Wazoo's back, a feeling she's never felt before washes over her. Without even knowing his name, Naminisha realizes she has fallen in love at first sight. A few days earlier, Back at Oishi Village, the group is wrapping things up after the bandit attack. Wazoo has decided to ensure the bandits don't escape by burying them up to their necks in the ground, creating a rather bizarre and pitiful flower garden of thugs. Cassie and her squad can only watch in disbelief. As they prepare to part ways, Cassie looks back at Wazoo and Orlando with a soft blush. She promises to meet them again someday, her gaze lingering a bit longer than usual. Orlando is clearly moved by her words, shouting her name with newfound passion. Cassie rides off with her squad, leaving the two travelers to continue their journey toward Manhwa Village. Wazoo can't help but feel a little jealous of Orlando's sudden popularity with the ladies. Meanwhile, Mir is happily perched on Wazoo's head, treating his messy hair like a cozy nest. Wazoo reflects on the types of women he's met so far. He thinks about Cassie. She's definitely cute, but her intense personality makes him a bit hesitant to say she's his type. The conversation turns to the urgent matter of Manhwa Village, where Naminisha is currently trapped. Wazoo learns that even at full gallop, it would take a horse an entire day to get there. Not wanting to waste a single second, Wazoo decides to just run there himself. He takes off like a rocket, leaving everyone behind in a cloud of dust as they marvel at his inhuman speed and stamina. By the following evening, they've set up camp near Manhwa Village. Cassie is incredibly grateful for Wazoo's help, but Wazoo has a specific favor he'd like to ask in return. He wants Cassie to help mediate Orlando's goal of becoming a knight once they reach the capital. Cassie is open to it, but she warns them that the unrest in the country of Man Bond needs to be settled first. They finally reach Manhwa Village under the cover of night, only to find the streets eerily empty. Wazoo approaches a house on the outskirts, hoping to find the princess. Cassie fills them in on the details. 2 days ago, a large force of knights in red armor surrounded this house. Wazoo and Orlando realize these are the same guys who were working with the bandits earlier. Outside the house, the red-armored knights have set up a siege. They taunt those inside, telling them their magic barrier is only a temporary fix and they should just surrender now. Seeing the situation, Wazoo doesn't hesitate. He tells Orlando and Cassie he's going alone. Cassie tries to stop him, worried that these trained knights are a far greater threat than any bandits. Wazoo completely ignores the concept of stealth, appearing right in front of the knights before they even know what's happening. With a casual ease that defies logic, Wazoo starts sending the armored men flying through the air. The knights are left in a state of pure shock as their formation is shattered in seconds. Wazoo is nothing more than a blur to his enemies, striking them down with such force that their armor offers almost no protection. He stands tall amidst the fallen soldiers, his expression stern. He makes it clear that if they have any intentions of harming the people inside, they'll have to go through him first. Inside the house, Naminisha is mesmerized by the amazing rampage unfolding before her eyes. She can't believe such an ordinary-looking person could possess such overwhelming power. With the enemies dealt with, Wazoo signals that it's safe. Orlando and Cassie catch up, both stunned by the scale of the destruction Wazoo has caused in such a short time. Cassie is the first to enter the house, calling out to her master to let her know the rescue has arrived. The door opens, and Princess Naminisha Manbond steps out. She finds herself face-to-face with the man who just single-handedly saved her life. Naminisha doesn't say a word at first. She just walks right up to Wazoo, her eyes locked onto his in an intense, unwavering stare. She leans in close, way too close, demanding to know his name. Wazoo is completely flustered by the sudden intimacy, his face turning a bright shade of red as he manages to stutter out his name. Hearing his name seems to fill Naminisha with joy. She repeats it with a beaming smile, already adding the Sama honorific to his name. Even once they're all inside the house, Naminisha refuses to give Wazoo any personal space. He tries to keep his distance, but she insists that there's no need for formality between them. Cassie officially introduces the group, confirming that Naminisha is the second princess of the Manbond Kingdom. Naminisha, however, is much more interested in chatting with Wazoo. Floyd, the princess's personal butler, introduces himself as well. He admits he was deeply moved by the good taste Wazoo showed when he decided to bury the fallen knights in the ground. Next is Kiyomiya, the princess's personal maid. She's incredibly shy and clearly overwhelmed by the presence of a man as strong as Wazoo. Kiyomiya is so nervous that she ends up tripping over her words, her face turning beet red as she tries to introduce herself. Wazoo can't help but notice her extremely unbalanced proportions. Wazoo finds himself staring, much to Naminisha's annoyance. She gives him a sharp glare, sensing that his attention has wandered away from her. Orlando introduces himself as a simple soldier, clarifying that he's the one traveling to the capital and Wazoo is just his companion. The conversation then shifts to the incredible feat of Wazoo taking down all the knights by himself. Naminisha is looking at Wazoo with literal hearts in her eyes, making him feel more than a little uncomfortable. Suddenly, Wazoo feels a strange sensation and realizes he needs to step away for a moment. He pulls out his status board, only to find the goddesses inside are having a full-blown argument. It seems the goddess of Mother Earth has just suffered a crushing defeat in their latest squabble. The goddesses are shouting at each other about breast sizes and Wazoo's purity. Wazoo is completely done with their antics, wishing they would just leave him alone for once. While Wazoo is distracted, Naminisha pulls Orlando aside. She tentatively asks if Wazoo already has a lover, clearly hoping for a specific answer. Orlando explains that Wazoo is currently single, though he notes that Wazoo's past experiences have left him with very little confidence when it comes to women. This information only seems to strengthen Naminisha's resolve. Wazoo returns to the group and asks for the real reason why the princess and her retinue had to flee the royal capital. Naminisha begins to explain the royal family of Manbond. She talks about her parents, the king and queen, and her elder brother Navilio, who is the heir to the throne. She then introduces herself and her twin elder sister, Neralina. While Naminisha is known as the bloodless holy princess for her protective magic, her sister is the Blood Rain Valkyrie, a warrior so strong she's feared by other nations. Naminisha continues her story, explaining that the peace of the royal family was shattered when her parents fell into a mysterious coma. To make matters worse, her elder brother Navilio and twin sister Neralina suddenly turned on each other, treating their own kin like sworn enemies. They suspect that this sudden madness wasn't natural. Navilio had begun wearing a strange bracelet, and Neralina a peculiar necklace, both appearing right before their personalities shifted. Wazoo and the others realize there must be a dark force pulling the strings from behind the scenes. Wazoo recognizes the descriptions immediately. He recalls what Relaya, the master of the Adventurers Guild headquarters, had once told him about two stolen curse tools, the immature puppet bracelet and the Feast of the Berserker necklace. These items grant power, but slowly consume the wearer's mind. Knowing the tools are the source of the conflict, Wazoo suggests a direct approach: simply destroy them. While Naminisha is hesitant to use force against her siblings, Wazoo assures her that he can handle it without hurting them. Orlando, though skeptical of Wazoo's bluntness, admits that his friend's strength is their best bet. Naminisha is captivated by Wazoo's unwavering confidence. When he jokes about how even a god sword can't leave a scratch on him, she finds herself genuinely impressed by his carefree attitude. She begins to see him as a true hero who has come to save her family. As they talk, Naminisha admits how lonely she has felt since her siblings stopped recognizing her. Wazoo, thinking of his own younger sister, offers her a comforting smile and some kind words. His empathy hits home, leaving Naminisha deeply touched and more than a little flustered by his kindness. Outside of the official guild channels, Naminisha makes a personal, informal request. She wants Wazoo to save her brother and sister. Wazoo doesn't hesitate for a second, accepting the task with a bright, cheerful grin that leaves Naminisha and Orlando momentarily stunned. Naminisha's heart swells with gratitude, but Wazoo has one small condition for his service. He asks the princess to give Orlando a genuine chance to become a knight, a selfless request that moves Orlando to the verge of tears. Orlando is overwhelmed by his friend's support, while Naminisha is happy to agree. She notes that Wazu's character is just as impressive as his physical strength. However, she decides that a simple favor isn't enough of a reward for someone of Wazu's caliber. With a mischievous yet sincere smile, Naminisha announces that she has already decided on Wazu's reward. She looks him straight in the eyes and declares, "Your reward would be me," leaving Wazu completely speechless and Orlando in total shock. To Wazu's further embarrassment, Naminisha insists that he drop the formal titles and just call her by her name. She leans in close, encouraging him to speak to her as an equal, which only adds to the young adventurer's confusion and blushing face. With the plan set, the group agrees to leave for the royal capital the following morning. Naminisha's playful yet determined attitude makes it clear that she has no intention of letting Wazu escape her grasp anytime soon. Later that night, Floyd the butler offers Wazu a friendly warning. Don't let the charms of the house's maid, Kumiya, distract him. Naminisha doesn't take kindly to the butler's suggestive comment, delivering a swift kick to his backside that sends him flying. The next morning, Wazu is surprised to find that Kumiya seems like an entirely different person. Floyd explains that she has a split personality. The shy girl from before has been replaced by Kumua, a much sharper and more assertive version of the maid. Kumua is blunt and bossy, but she still takes her duties seriously, insisting on helping Wazu with his morning routine. Wazu is completely overwhelmed by her aggressive approach, while Mir watches the whole spectacle with a look of mild amusement. Left alone for a moment, Wazu reflects on the strange people he's met. He talks to Mir, admitting he feels a bit self-conscious about his naked state and wondering if he should try to appear more human like the dragons he's known. Mir simply continues to stare at him, unblinking. Wazu laughs it off, telling Mir that she's perfect just the way she is. As they head outside to meet the others, he's greeted by a bright and cheerful Naminisha, who seems more than ready to start their journey to the capital. Naminisha notices that Wazu's robe is a bit crooked and reaches out to fix it for him. The casual intimacy of the gesture makes Wazu's heart race, and Naminisha can't help but tease him, calling him a sinful man for making her feel this way. After a short journey, the magnificent spires of the royal capital Manbond finally come into view. It's a massive, bustling metropolis, far larger than anything Wazu has seen before, and its scale is truly breathtaking. As they reach the gates, Cassie explains the final part of their plan. She and her squad will take Relaya to the castle first, while Wazu and Naminisha will prepare to confront the cursed siblings. Everyone is tense, but determined to see this through to the end. Entering the city, Wazu is like a child in a candy store, marveling at the endless rows of buildings and the throngs of people. Naminisha explains that the capital is divided into 3 sections: the royal castle, the noble ward, and the outer ward. They talk about the kingdom's history, and Naminisha credits her father for the city's prosperity. She's surprised to hear Wazu is from the distant country of Iskoa, noting that Manbond must seem much more developed in comparison. Suddenly, the peaceful moment is shattered by the sound of a carriage racing recklessly through the crowded street. Wazu's instincts kick in, and he shouts Naminisha's name, reaching out to pull her to safety before the horses can strike. Wazu pulls the princess into a protective embrace, his quick reflexes saving her from a nasty fall. Naminisha stares up at him, her face flushing crimson as she feels the strength of the man who has protected her once again. Meanwhile, the mysterious carriage continues on, its driver completely ignoring the chaos they left behind.